This is going to be one of the biggest years of my life, but I'm here for it. I've prepared the best that I possibly can to put myself in the best position this year. Trust me when I say this. The time is now.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. How is everyone? I'm great, thank you for asking. We are back with another episode. We've got another sit-down episode for you, and I wanted to outline some of the key points that I think that sometimes are missed. A lot of these are obviously quite obvious, and you'll probably know them, but I think that it's really important to outline some of the things that I feel that you need to have in place before you start a prep. I'm talking bodybuilding prep, maybe a mini cut, maybe a casual cut. A lot of these you could use, but maybe a little bit less seriously if it's not a bodybuilding cut. If it's a bodybuilding cut, these are the things that I think are non-negotiable for you to be in a position. So quite often I'll get clients or prospect clients come to me and they say, I want to prep for a show in 16 weeks. Well, there's this, and this that need addressing before we get there. So maybe you have to rethink it. And I think that this video could save a lot of people doing that. So this is why I'm here making it. So here's the first few tips for you. I think these ones are, the first two that I'm going to talk about here are somewhat backwards. One is going to be, don't get too fat. The other one is going to be, have as much food as you possibly can. So obviously one can lead to the other, but I think it's important to understand that one shouldn't lead to the other. So I think that number one, you shouldn't get too fat in the off season, especially perhaps the off-season chunk or the massing phase before you go on to prep, because you've got that body fat to lose. You know, we went over the off-season progress last video, and we know that I had one big push-up where I pushed the body fat high, but we were never going to do that on the second push-up because we knew we had this cut to come, and we knew that losing 15, 20, 22, 23 kilos a cut you are going to sacrifice some muscle, and you are going to be in a position, probably a worse off position than if you had less to lose. So don't get too fat. You know, how do you judge that? Have you got real bad love handles? Are you completely blurry in the midsection? Are you losing all vascular in shape? You're probably too fat. But then we talk about get your food as high as possible. Now, in terms of getting your food as high as possible, it has to be progressive. It has to be relative to you. Some people are hard gainers or harder gainers. Some people are very, very soft gainers. People who are naturally gain more body fat will probably have lower calories in general because you'd be a little bit more progressive and a little bit slower with your bump up in food. For someone like me, who I consider myself somewhat of a hard gainer, I have to eat upwards of 5,000-6,000 calories to gain weight, and I still stay pretty lean in the off season. You just keep pushing that food up as high as it can possibly go. Why do you push your food up as possibly high as you can go with keeping your body fat in position? Because you're going to cut on way more food. You know, you go from 5,000 to 4,000 calories. I'm on 4,000 calories at the moment. I've lost 3.5 kilos, 4 kilos already on 4,000 calories. That's a lot of food to eat. That's a really, really healthy metabolism. Obviously, the more muscle you have, the more size you have, the higher your natural metabolism is going to be, the higher those foods are going to be. But just as an example, when I was natural, I ended up on 1,700 calories to get shredded. The first time that I competed while using steroids, I ended up on about 2,400, maybe 500 on average, you know. And this time I expect it to be maybe a little bit higher again because I've got a little bit more muscle mass again, and I got my food a little bit higher again. So get your food as high as you can in the off season with the mindset to not get too fat. I think those are two really, really important things that people need to establish. You then want to know how long you probably need to cut. If you're doing a bodybuilding competition, either you've done it before, you know, for example, I've competed for 5, 6, 7 years. I know that 16 weeks gets me shredded, you know, and I know that I'm going to compete after the 16 weeks, and I know that I only improve. If you've never been shredded before, always err on more time. You know, maybe that means you do a 5-month prep, 20 weeks. Maybe it does. You know, if you're slightly higher body fat, if you're someone who holds a bit more body fat, you're gonna have to suck it up and do that hard one initially so you don't get too fat next time. So know how long you've got to cut. There's no point registering for a show in June and start cutting in April, you know, if you're not gonna be ready. Know how long you need to cut. If you don't know, then just go through 10 to 16 weeks or maybe 10 to 12 weeks, see how you look and try and gauge how much you need more. I think those are really important things. Too many people jump in the deep end, register for a show and realize I'm not gonna look good enough. Or maybe you don't, if you don't know if you're gonna look good enough, or if you don't know if you're gonna be lean enough, just know you're gonna compete, but don't pick a show, just, you know, gauge it how you go, and then try and cut earlier in the year so there's more shows to try and get to. I think if you're assisted, if you're someone who's assisted or is using androgenic anabolic steroids, you should have blood work in place. Now, the company I'm going to recommend here is Medichecks. I've been working for Medichecks, or with Medichecks, I should say, for the last 3 years, even when I was natural. They provide at-home blood tests, fully comprehensive panels. We're talking liver values, kidney values, cholesterol, HbA1c, your overall inflammation, your CRP levels, for example. All of those things you can test with almost a finger prick, I think, at the moment. You know, if you need a little bit more blood volume, they also provide nurses. You do have to pay a little bit extra, but they provide nurses who will come to your house, take the blood, or if you know a nurse, or if you know someone, you can take the blood yourself and you can send it off for almost next day results with a doctor's recommendation. You know, I do not know many companies that do it better than Medichecks, if any at all. You know, the whole process takes 3 to 4 days from getting the initial equipment in the beginning to sending off and getting your results with doctor's notes. So if you ever guys want to use Medichecks, you can use Josh Bridgman at discount. There's no E in Bridgman, just for you guys who don't know. And it's a really good company. I use all my blood work through them. We've actually got a blood work video coming very, very soon, which I'll talk about in a few more videos. But it's imperative that you're in a place where blood work allows you to progress. If it's not in a good place and you're okay with that, okay, that's your decision. That's not for me to decide, you know. But if you are in a bad position and you're not necessarily like, I need to compete this year, that bit of information may hold you off a little bit longer and allow you to get healthier and not cause the damage that you may cause. For anyone natural out there, I would suggest maybe getting your blood work done once a year maximum. You're hopefully just going to be fine living a somewhat healthy lifestyle. Another thing you need to go, and this goes for everyone, you need to be free of fatigue. This maybe means you take 3, 4, 5 days off before you train, or before you get back into a prep. I took 10 days off at Christmas. So when it came to February, I only needed 3 or 4 days to be fresh because I already was pretty washed of my fatigue. The quickest way to wash off your fatigue is just to take 3 or 4 or 5 days completely off. If you're absolutely hammered after an off season, make sure you're fresh. There's nothing worse than starting a prep on an uphill battle. So you want to make sure you're doing that. A couple more things. I think you need to be financially ready. And I think you need to let your family know and your relationships know what's happening if you've not been in that position before. Financially, you need to pay for shows, you need to pay for tan, you need to pay for transport, maybe you need to pay for a hotel, maybe you need to pay for drugs, maybe you need to pay for blood work, maybe you need to pay for all these different things. So if you are not in a financially viable situation to go into a bodybuilding prep and you don't understand all these different costs that come with it, I wouldn't recommend it because there's no shortcuts in bodybuilding, and if you take them, it's probably going to show on stage. So I think that's important. Letting your family know if you are new to a prep, it's going to be hard, probably going to be grouchy, especially for the first time. You're not matured in bodybuilding, you don't know what to expect, you don't know how to feel. If you are truly shredded, you'll be running on empty, you'll be feeling not the best, I should say, and it might hurt to sit on this chair. So if you see me with a cushion under this chair in a few weeks' time, it's because I'm very, very lean. So I think it's important to let them know you're about to embark on a 16 to 20 week selfish journey where everything needs to be optimal every single day. And obviously, God willing, you've got a very, very supportive family. You'll be in that position where that's absolutely no problem. A couple more things here. Know which competition you want to do and understand the federation and the rules. I think I've heard pretty famous people in the YouTube business say, I really want to get a pro card, it's my dream. And then they compete with a federation called PCA. And the PCA, they offer a pro card, but it's a PCA pro card. It's not a IFBB pro card, which takes you to the Olympia and the biggest stage in bodybuilding. So a lot of people get confused with their federations thinking they're going to get a pro card, and you will get a pro card in that federation. But a lot of people have this, want to be on the Olympia stage. And that is through an IFBB federation. Here in England, it's called the Two Bros Pro, or MPC worldwide. Just understand the federation that you're actually entering, and if it's the route that you actually know that's what you want to take. If it's a natural one, UK DFDA, you can follow those guys, but just make sure you're at the right one, because I've seen people come to the wrong one before. And then understand your federation. PCA, men's physique, Two Bros, IFBB men's physique, they have different poses. You know, for men's physique in the PCA, you put your arms up. For Two Bros Pro, you keep them on your side. So understanding the different poses, understanding what they're looking for in the physique. If you're doing men's physique, that condition, that proportion, are you even? Are you good looking? Is it working well? Versus bodybuilding, where you need your legs developed and your glutes in, and are you soft? From behind or front. You need to understand what they're marking you on, and then adhering to that criteria with the physique and the genetics you've been given. And I think those are two really important things there. So I think overall, if you take as many of those into consideration before you enter a prep, you're going to put yourself in a position to do the best that you can. And there's even more depth that we could go into there. I don't want to sit here and bore you about all the things you do for prep, but little things like, why don't you set your routine from day one? Get up, do your steps, because you know that in 5, 6, 7 weeks time, you're going to need that time slot for cardio or steps. So for me, I've always woken up enough time to know that I'm going to slot in cardio eventually. That cardio is now coming in, which we'll do a full update in one of the future videos of what the changes have been made. But I'm now doing full lots of cardio, just for example. From the start, I knew that was coming in. So I've been waking up 3, 4, 5 hours earlier before I go to the gym. And having that time in the morning where I can do my cardio, spend some time fasted, because obviously the drugs that I'm using, do my steps, and then have my breakfast before I go train. So it's just about thinking ahead in the future, about thinking about 1 week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and what that routine is going to look like, and setting yourself up for success at the start. There's plenty of things that you can do. If anyone's got any more, comment down below. We're just trying to help people here. But these are some really important facts and things that you should implement before you go into your bodybuilding journey or your prep. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We'll be back very, very, very soon. We've been over the moon. Me and Andy, the videographer, have been over the moon with the comments, the feedback. And the style that we've gone for, and Andy's managed to bring to the channel. I actually love every video, so I hope you guys do too. Peace and love, everybody. We'll see you very soon. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.